Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my sewing room. If you haven't been here before, my name is Rosemary, and I do a lot of different kinds of crafts and sewing on this channel. So up until now, all of you who watch me on a regular basis know that I basically show a lot of things on the Brother sewing machine. I absolutely love my Brother toddler sewing machine. I also have a Brother 2500D that I do most of my sewing on, although it is also an embroidery machine. But I have to tell you, I'm really excited today because I have a brand new FOF Admire Air 7000 serger. I've had sergers in the past. My very first serger I ever had was probably about 1997. I bought a secondhand serger from a friend of mine, and I just barely got started into serging, and it was kind of a struggle for me to figure out how to thread one of those machines. And then years later, somewhere near 2015 or 2016, I got another serger that was computerized and had 5 threads that was supposed to be wonderful, but it was just plain complicated, and I struggled with that one as well. And I would always go back to my sewing machine, even though I was already working in a sewing store and teaching serging. It would be easier just to leave it off and do my stretch stitches on my sewing machine. But I do love sergers. I love the finished look on the sergers. I always use them in the store when I'm at work. And so I felt like I just really had to get myself this new air threader. It's going to thread the loopers through an air channel that's going to make it a whole lot easier. I actually considered doing one of those unboxing videos, but I'm old enough that this seems kind of silly. But I do want to show you a little bit about how to thread this to make it a lot easier. And you can see how wonderful it is to have a good serger to make your projects. And today I want to make a project that has a lot of stretch fabrics. And as you can see, I went a little bit crazy at the fabric store. I bought some stretch black t-shirt knit that I'm going to make some little t-shirt tops for pajamas from my great-grandsons. And I bought some ribbing. If you don't know what ribbing is a very stretchy fabric that you use to put around the collar and the cuffs of your stretch knit shirts and pants that you make. So I got some gray and I got some black. And then I bought some Avengers fabric. My great-grandson loves Spider-Man. In fact, right now he's going through a period. Well, if you say, "What is your name?" he says, "My name is Peter Parker." So I thought I would make him a Spider-Man pair of pants and then use my brother's toddler sewing machine to embroider Spider-Man on the top on the shirt. And then his little brother likes Batman. So I got some Batman fabric, and I also got some plain black and some plain red. I'm not even sure what I'm going to do with them. I'm going to work this out a little bit at a time, and hopefully you'll come with me on the journey. I also have a couple of patterns I've purchased. This one here is a new look. New look's always a good way to go if you don't have a lot of money to spend on a pattern. And it's just a really cute little basic t-shirt top and pajama pants. It works out really good. I'll put a picture up in the corner so you can see the pattern a little bit closer and see the number. And then this is a McCall's. Same thing. It's got pajama top and pajama bottoms. This one even has a little hood on it, which is kind of cool if you wanted to put a hood on the top of it. And but basically, it's got some little decorations on the front, but I'm not going to use those because I have an embroidery machine. So I'll put some embroidery on there. I don't have a Batman embroidery, but I have software, so I can pull something like that off. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet either. So we're going to have a lot of fun during this. If you've never sewn with stretch knits, I will give you a few tips, and then we'll go ahead and we'll sew it together with our serger, and hopefully we'll get it done very quickly, and it'll be a lot of fun. So let's go over. I'm going to move my FOF sewing machine over to my sewing table, and we're going to thread it up, and I'm going to show you how to cut this thing out. Okay, so we moved over to my cutting table, and I have got my Spider-Man fabric laid out, and I went ahead and went through the pattern. I've decided that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this McCall's one because it's got a lot of different sizes, and I think it's exactly what I'm looking for. One of the things I like about it is it has a raglan sleeve. Remember when I did the little boy shirts before, and we had to do the inset the sleeve in the shoulder, which is a little bit difficult to do? This one's very easy because it sews from here to here. Everything fits together really easily. It's a really good starter program pattern if you've never made anything before. Make a little pair of pajamas that's really easy to do. The other thing is that you want to make sure that you have some really good pins. Don't go to the dollar store and buy some inexpensive pins. I would even say don't go to Walmart and buy some inexpensive pins. Get yourself some good pins. I like glass head pins because you can iron over them and the little tips don't pull off really easily. But the most important part is you want some that are going to be nice and sharp and are going to go through your fabric without you having to struggle and tear your pattern and all sorts of other things. Another thing is a lot of people, when they buy a pattern that has a lot of sizes, will get some tracing pattern paper and trace it out the size that they want. I don't usually do that. I wait for them to have sales and I buy more than one pattern for $1.99. I'll buy like 3 of the same pattern at $1.99, and that way if I cut it out at a size 5 and then later on I want to make a size 3, I just get the other pattern out. It seems to me like a lot of trouble, but it's up to you. You can go ahead and you can trace them out. So we're going to keep this really simple. We have the front and the back pieces. We have the sleeve piece, and we've got the pants piece. One of the things you want to remember is when you lay this out that you use your measuring tape. This arrow that goes right down the center that says green line is very important. You want to measure from that arrow to the selvage on both ends of the arrow. Even though this is a stretch fabric and it doesn't really have a grain line, it has a stretch line, and if you cut it out wrong, it's not going to hang right when the child is wearing it. So make sure that you cut it out nice and straight. It's really tempting just to eyeball it. I still remember way back in junior high school, my home economics teacher telling me, unpin that and pin it back again. Make sure you get it straight. So make sure you get that straight when you go to cut it out. The other thing is that I bought this polar fleece at the store because it was basically the only Spider-Man fabric I could find. And I thought I would make the whole pajamas out of polar fleece. And then I thought about it, it's June and I want them to wear it now. I want them to be able to enjoy it. So I'm going to make a short sleeve little t-shirt top, and I'm going to make the pajama pants out of the polar fleece, and we're going to use the t-shirt knit for the top. I'll go ahead and I'll embroider Spider-Man on the top of it. It should be something that he can wear throughout the summer. Make sure that your stretch when you go to cut out this little shirt goes around the body. If you cut it this way so the stretch goes up and down, not only will it not go over their head very well, which is really frustrating, but it also will start to grow as they wear it, and it'll get longer and longer, and it won't look very nice. So make sure that you lay this out properly and that you cut it with the stretch going around the body. So I've already kind of done a whole thing where I've pinned a pattern out and cut it out. I'm not going to do that on this one. I want to get to the serger so I can show you how wonderful the serger is, how much fun it is going to be to thread it up and then sew these parts together. This goes so fast. You can make an outfit in an afternoon really quickly and easily, and it'll be a lot of fun. So let's go ahead and get this part done. Okay, so we're in front of my new serger. I want to show you some of the neat features. I'm going to have to move the camera a couple of times to try and get all of this in here to let you be able to see it nice and close. So first, let's talk about the screen a little bit that's here. So this is showing me that I'm doing a 4 thread. If I hit this right here, it's going to give me all the different threading features that I can do. I can do a 5 thread, I can do a 3 thread, I can do a 2 thread. And anytime I choose a thread that I want to do, like let's say I wanted to do a 3 thread wrapped overlock wide, I can hit that, and it's not only going to show me where my needles are supposed to be, what my tensions are supposed to be, and what gets threaded. So on this one with the dots, that means the very last thread and then the 2 center ones are going to get threaded. The info button is going to show me whether I need the cover stitch plate or the regular overlock plate, whether my blade is engaged, whether I have to connect the 2 thread converter on there, where my foot pressure should be set, or I guess maybe the differential is what I'm talking about, and whether this lever, which is down here, has to go from N to R. And then this is going to explain why I might want to use that 2 thread stitch, what the purpose of it is. And if I come over here, I'm back here to my threading and what my stitch should look like when it's sewn. And I'm going to X out of that and come back to my main screen. My main screen is going to show me what my width, which is my blade setting, what my differential is set at, and what my length is set at. And then this is, again, takes you back over to the tensions that I could override and change if I want to change it. But the machine is really good at setting it up for what it wants it to be. So that's really good that I can do that with it. So let's go back out of the info button to the main screen. And I am going to hit this, and I want to do a 4 thread. So let's go up here. A regular 4 thread safety stitch is what I want to be able to do. So I'm going to set that up, and it's going to tell me that oh, this isn't the one I want to do. Let's go back out again. Let's see. I want to do a 4 thread overlock stitch is what I want to do. So it's telling me that the number purple one is not supposed to be threaded. The green, the pink, the blue, and the yellow are supposed to. And I don't know if you can see that on here, but this is pink, this is green, this is purple. So I know exactly which threads are going to go where and where I'm going to thread them. So now I'm going to move the camera so it's down here where you can see a little bit better about what I'm doing here. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. So I have the pink one threaded here, and over here is where they go through the air channel and they're open. But if I push this and turn my flywheel, they'll just snap into place, and then that's where the air channel is created. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and push it down into the pink channel. Or maybe it's red, I don't know. But I want to keep moving it till I get about 1 inch of the way in there. And I'm going to make sure I have enough extra thread so that it can go all the way through. And then I'm just going to push the button, and boom, it just came out this side. Isn't that cool? It is so easy. It's just wonderful. I love it. And then I'm going to do the green one the same way. I'm going to take the end, I'm going to push it down in here. And if you've ever had a serger before, you know that sometimes getting this lower looper is the biggest pain in the neck. My first serger, you had to do the old-fashioned way where you went in and around and back, and you felt like you had to stand on your head. I'm going to push the button, and it didn't quite come all the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull a little bit extra, and I'm going to push the button again. And there it is. It came through. And I'm going to just pop it up over the top and pull it through. And then I'm going to just follow the paths for the needles, which is a pretty easy way to go. And I'm going to thread up my needles, and then we're going to give it a try and see what happens. Okay, so I've got it all threaded. I closed the front door, and I'm back on my main screen, and I'm going to turn my flywheel, and everything's going to move, and I want to be able to see that it is actually making loops on the inside over that finger that's on the inside. So if you have never had a serger before, a lot of people say, why would I want to have them? They do, when you're working on cotton fabrics and such as that, they do finish the edge really nice so you don't have any raveling. But they on knits, such as we're working on today, it just leaves the stretch in the fabric, which is so nice. It's a struggle sometimes to get knits to do what you want them to do. The other thing that it does is that it cuts. So there's a blade right here that's going to cut as I'm sewing. And they go very, very fast. And that's another thing I like about it. So I'm finishing the edges and I'm cutting the raw edge. So I have a nice finished professional edge. Okay, so that is the side seam of my pajama pants. And then I'm just going to flip it around, and I'm going to sew the inseam, which is the part that curves down and goes around in here. And we're just going to sew those in almost like we're making a big tube. Okay, so I've already sewn the inseam part and the side seam of both pairs of the legs of these pajama pants. And this one I've turned inside out. So you can see the seam is on this side and it's inside out. And I want to show you a trick. If you do it like this, where you take the entire leg of the pants and put it inside the entire leg of the other pant, like this. And then line up those inseams. So I've got one inseam here. So the right sides are together. I don't know if you can see this. It's really hard to show it on the camera. But you see that entire curve, or they're lined up with right sides together. I'm going to take that and I'm going to sew that on my serger, and then I'm going to have a really nice pair of pants put together in a matter of, what was that, 5 seams, and it'll be completely together. And then we're going to start on the shirt before we start turning it over and doing hems and stuff like that. Okay, so I'm ready to do the shirt top, and I want to show you the pattern, the way it shows you. Just here's the front, here's the back, and here's the 2 sleeves. And all you want to do is line up each one of those seams till you've almost like created a circle all the way around with the hole for the neck right in the middle. So what I'm doing is I have my front that I have embroidered Spider-Man on, and then here's my sleeve, and I'm going to line this edge up and pin it. And then here's my back piece. Same thing, I've got the back piece, and I've got the opening for the sleeve right here, the raglan part of it. And I'm going to line this part up like this, and I'm going to pin that together all the way around till I've got a circle. And then I'm going to put it on my serger and I'm going to sew it. So I'm back at my serger, and there's a couple of things about a serger that you need to understand. One, with your serger, you don't put the fabric right up under the foot like you do with your sewing machine, like this. Usually you feed it in from the front, and a lot of times you don't even have to lift the presser foot. Sometimes you can just put your thumb like this and lift it and just get it right in front of that blade so that it'll cut. The other thing is, especially when you're working with these stretch knits, is a serger has a differential feed. A differential feed is going to adjust for the stretch in your knit. And it usually tells you to put it on 1, and that's what it's on right now, is 1. But there's going to be some exceptions where you need to change it. And just to give you an idea what that looks like is, I am going to deliberately make this a 0.6, and I'm going to sew on it. And you will see that it just made this fabric really wrinkly. See the way it just kind of made a wobbly line? And some people do that on purpose because they want what's called a lettuce leaf end. But we don't want that to do that on our shirt that we're making. And you'll also notice there's a lot of little loopies on here, because the way when it cuts it and the fabric stretches, then it bounces back. And when it bounces back, then the wrapping part of the loopers is not correct. So sometimes you have to move your blade out a little bit so that when it bounces back, it's right. So I'm going to go the other direction. We're going to go up as high as it'll go, which is a 2. And I want you to see what will happen with the differential. This is kind of a noisy machine. I forgot to warn you guys about that. So now you'll see that what it did was it pulled it in, and it still made that loopy look. So I have to make adjustments. I always like to have a piece of scrap fabric so I can make adjustments for the different things that I'm doing. So I'm going to make my differential back to the way it was that it told me to do. And when it's at a 1, it actually changes color to black. So I know I've got that right. And then I'm going to sew it again. So now it's not pushing or pulling, it's laying flat, which is what I want it to do. But it is making a few little loops on the end because it bouncing back after it cuts it. So what I'm gonna do about that is I'm gonna adjust my blade. It's at 6.5 and I'm going to move it out a little bit further than 6.5 so that it cuts it further out, and that way when it bounces back I won't get those loops. So hopefully I got that. So I'm going to try it one more time. So that looks a whole lot better. That's more like the way I want it to look. I wish I had done this in a different color so you could actually see what the difference was, but it does look a whole lot better. So now I'm ready to go ahead and put my shirt together. Okay, so I've got my shirt together now, and I want to do one more thing before we go and switch this over to do a cover hem. I took that ribbing that I showed you earlier and I cut it in about 1.5 inches wide, and I measured around the baby's head, so I know that this is the right size. The pattern also has a measurement too that you could use if you prefer. And then I sewed one end, and I'm going to take that end and fold it onto the inside. So I've kind of created a binding that I'm going to put around the neck. So here's my shirt. It's completely sewn together. I've done the side seams and I've done everything. I just have the opening for the neck. And I'm going to pin this piece to the inside of the shirt. The shirt's inside out, so I guess it's the outside of the shirt is what I'm pinning it to. So I'm going to pin it to the outside of the shirt right along the neckline. And oh my gosh, please make sure you pull these pins as you go. It's more important to do that on a serger than on a sewing machine because you will mess up your blade if you don't pull that pin out before you sew. And then we're going to take the other side, and this is called quartering. So I'm going to go from the front to the opposite side of this ring, and I'm going to pin it to the front of the shirt like this. So I'm doing each corner. I'm doing the center of the back, the center of the front, the center of each one of the sleeves, and I'm going to pin them. And the reason why you do this is you want to make sure that the stretch is even all the way around. You don't want to end up with one part that's more stretched than the other part. So that's why we do it in 4 corners first. And then once you've done the 4 corners, all you have to do is just stretch it to fit. And it needs to stretch. If you don't have to stretch it to fit it, then it's definitely not going to pull in and make a neckline. So hopefully the circle neckline you cut is going to be definitely bigger than the circle neckline of the shirt that you've sewn together. And I'm going to pin this all the way around. And then I'm going to put it under the serger. And hopefully you can see the foot right here. I hope I've got this a place where you can see it. So when I go to put this on here, let me lift this. This is an exception to what I said before because there isn't an end to stick. So I've got to get it up underneath this foot by kind of moving it back and forth until I get it in there. Now it's in there, and I'm going to stretch it as I go. I want to pull it so this neckline is stretched, but the shirt is not stretched. I don't want the shirt to stretch. And then I'm going to just start sewing it. And I'm going to keep stopping and pausing and make sure that all 3 of my rows are lined up, and then sew some more. And then here's where I'm going to stop and pull that pin so that I don't accidentally. And I'm going to continue all the way around until that's done. Okay, the second thing I want to show you before I switch this over to do a cover hem is here's the pants that we were working on before. And I haven't pulled the legs out. I didn't realize I hadn't done that yet. Okay, so I could take this to my sewing machine and turn it down and stitch it to make a casing for my elastic. But one of the really neat things I like about a serger is I can also fold this in for the amount that I need for a waistband elastic. And I'm going to put a pin right here and a pin right here. I'm using my really long pins so I can show this to you how it works. And then I'm going to take it, the whole thing, and fold it to the outside. So now my pins went from pointing down to pointing up. So it's almost like if you've ever done a blind hem, it's like a blind hem is basically what I'm doing. I folded it in and then out. And then I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it on my serger. And you can do this by putting the blade down. So it doesn't cut, but it really doesn't matter because we're going to have a finished edge no matter what. I'm going to move it back and forth until it fits in the serger. Put the foot down. And then I'm going to just sew that edge, that folded edge with the raw edge. Okay, so as you can see, now I've just made a casing to put that elastic in, and not only is it nice and finished, but on the inside it looks really professional. So I really like the way that makes a casing. So I'll go ahead and put elastic in that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to hem the bottom of these pants and hem the sleeves and the top with a cover hem. So I have to switch the machine over completely for a cover hem, and I'll be right back as soon as I do that. Okay, so I've switched this completely over so that it is a cover hem. One of the first things you do is you cover this table up. And in order to do that, you have to take the upper looper and lock it down. And there's a lever down here that you move over that locks that out of place, and then you take it out. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to move both of your needles forward. And it says right here on the screen that we have C and E for a wide cover hem. So that's what we're going to do, is move our needles forward. And then... oh, I'm sorry. Then we're going to thread this purple looper. And that's the one that we did not thread the last time. And you just put it through and push your button and thread it. And so that makes it very easy. Now, you'll notice that if I hit the info button, that it says that I have the purple one is threaded as a looper. And the pink one is now a needle thread. So I have to, that's usually the upper looper one. Now it's a needle one. So I'm going to take it out of the looper and I'm going to move it over and make it a needle one. I don't have anything in the blue path, but I have one in the yellow path. So both of these are needles and this one is the looper, and you only need 3 threads. And it does tell you to go ahead and use this little spring to pull the threads through. So also you're going to put your blade down, and the blade goes down by just turning it like this. It's very easy to move your blade, and you put this from end to R so that the table will fit over it and everything will slide to a closing. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to go out of the info part and I'm going to just fold this over like this. And you can pin it the height that you want it and measure it and lay it here and kind of figure out where the 2, 3, 4, where you want that. Or you can just put it under here and feel with your fingers where it's going to stop at, and kind of keep it even that way with just your fingers feeling the edge. And then all we're going to do is just start to sew. Okay, sorry about that. I had to go out and come back in again because I did something wrong. But anyway, I started to sew, and I'm just going to make this, it's going to make a double row of stitching all the way down. I'm feeling with my fingers so I can tell where the edge of my fabric is, because I want it to go right over the edge like that. Now, if I was sewing in a circle, and one of the nice things about this machine is it does have a free arm, so I can sew in a circle, which is really nice. So if I was sewing in a circle and I got to the edge right here where I got to take it out, how do you pull that out? You can't do it like your sewing machine. You turn your flywheel a full turn backwards, and that releases it so that now I can lift it up and just kind of pull it out like this, and it'll let go of it. And you can see what a really pretty double, it's a double row of stitching on this side, and it's a zigzag stitch over the edge. But the important part is it still stretches, and that is so important. And a lot of people will tell you just put a double needle in your sewing machine and it'll look just like a cover hem. Well, yeah, it looks like a cover hem, but it doesn't act like a cover hem. So if you're going to do bathing suits or a lot of workout gear or just leggings for a little girl, get yourself one of these sergers that do this cover hem. It just does such a nice finished edge, and you'll be so much happier with what you've got. So hopefully putting it on the gray made it a little bit easier for you to see what I'm doing. I'm going to go back to my black pants and shirts, and I'm going to finish them all up, and then I'll meet you back at the main counter so I can show you what they look like all finished. Okay, so I'm all completely finished with these little pajama pants. Here is the one with the Avengers on it, and Spider-Man is pretty predominant on the front, so that should make my little great-grandson Matthew very happy. And then this is his little shirt that goes with it. And I did a really nice job on the neckline. In the interest of honesty, that really thin one that I did, I cut it off because it just didn't lay nice. And I didn't like the way it fit around his shoulders. So I cut that off, and I cut a much wider one, more like 3 inches wide, and put that one on there. And that one looks a whole lot better. It looks like a store-bought t-shirt, doesn't it? And then here's my little Batman one that I made, and I put the gray ribbing around it, and I embroidered a Batman emblem on the front. And it probably needs to be pressed out a little bit better, but I think it came out pretty good. The boys are going to look absolutely adorable on them. I will put them on both of them next week, and then I'll put that picture on my Instagram page. If you haven't looked at my Instagram, it's the same thing. It's Enchanting Rosemary, and you can see some of the things I've done and some of the classes that might be coming up. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do next, but keep watching. Press like, press subscribe, and let me know if there's anything you'd like to see me do on this channel. In the meantime, have a nice week. Bye-bye.